Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 179. This is Carl.
This is Ed.
This is Adam.
This is Jason.
So I have been very fortunate enough to be joined this episode by my wonderful guests who each have their own podcasts. You may have heard some of them from time to time. Some of them have been on the show before, some have not. So thank you guys so much for joining. I really do appreciate you coming on. Okay, so this episode we're really going to talk, it's kind of a Warrior Lodge episode where I get some of your inputs into how you run your podcast, those kinds of things. Real quick before we get started, Ed, you run Life After the Cover Save along with your partner Blake. It's kind of a mix as to who's doing what there, as you'll hear. Yeah. But also you're involved in a new podcast, TSR.
Yes, the D&D 5th edition live play. Actual play podcast, yeah.
I think they call them live play, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks.
What do people need to know about you, about your podcasts, about?
Well, yeah, Life After Cover Save. We've been doing this for about 8 years now. Yep. I'm assuming, and it's a comedy gaming podcast.
Focus on the comedy.
Focus on comedy.
Unscripted.
Yeah. I guess unrated, unscripted, and I don't know. It's just two guys that have been friends since high school.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty good rapport.
Yeah.
We know how to push each other's buttons.
Yep.
And crack wise. And we try to get a lot of interviews in. So we talk to a lot of industry people. Yeah. And it's not...
it's not always Doug Johnson from Table War.
Yeah, exactly. the most least requested is what he was. So, yeah, it's just a good time.
Ed, we met as a result of us both having podcasts.
Correct.
And after a snafu with one of your original hosts and a miscommunication, you and I began talking and hit it off, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, I was worried you guys hate each other, and I had to try to
I know, you tried to mend fences.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you did.
Yeah.
You did. But thank you so much for coming up to my place and joining me just for the holidays.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Adam, first time in California.
First time in California, yeah.
Came specifically to visit me because you're not going to be able to go to Adepticon.
That's right. I wanted to see you guys. I got the baby coming, and it'll be a month before the baby comes, and that is just not in the cards.
Don't start pushing yet. You have come here. Your show, Masters of the Forge, is a narrative-based 40K podcast. Mm-hmm. And welcome to California. I'm sorry you didn't get to see much of it.
You know what? This is all you need to see. Look, we destroyed worlds. We have entire worlds here to explore in the Astronomicon. We don't need to go see the redwoods.
What are your thoughts having been to the Astronomicon?
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Hashtag hobby goals.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Somebody said, that's the game room I always dreamed of. I said, me too. I'm lucky.
Yeah, no, it's
There's
fantastic.
no other word for it, just lucky. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for making the trip all the way out here. I know we've kept you up, but we want to get the most out of your time while you're here.
The pleasure is mine, all mine.
And one of my very dearest friends, Jason Mullins, we've become very close over the years. Sons of Heresy Podcast. Yep. You've been on the show before. You'll be on it again, I'm sure.
I'm here so you can tell me how inferior 7th edition is.
Look, I'm not saying anyone's better than the other. They're just very different.
One, just a 60-40 kind of split?
Right. You get to decide which one.
More on that later.
Okay. And you have a new show starting soon.
Frontier Radio. Yep. And that's going to be more of focused on kind of just narrative gaming in general.
Yeah.
And we're going to be reviewing some other game systems and games in general.
So the three of you came and joined probably 13 other guys who all came and gamed today in the Astronomicon, kind of a gaming day before the holidays really kick in and interrupt, big gatherings. Everybody's got family stuff to go to, but also Adam, you were able to make it out. Jason was coming out for the holidays, so we always kind of celebrate when you come out. It's just all around, the stars were aligned, and we got to get in some great gaming today. So we hope you enjoy this show where we have some just very, I think, fairly candid conversation about podcasting,
Real
about
talk.
about Games Workshop, about our love of the hobby, that kind of thing. And
And Jason's hobby progress.
And Jason's hobby. We might get to that at the end of the show, maybe after the credits.
It's a mythical beast.
All right. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoy the show. Anything you guys want to throw in before we kind of kick it off? Yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank Wendy for
giving
me the opportunity to come out here.
Your wife.
It's my Christmas present, and she's the best.
Yeah.
She is just the best human. I love her.
I mean, enough can't be said about just having a spouse that is supportive of hobbies and that kind of thing. And your wife is very, very supportive of your hobby. I got to meet her when you came out to Adepticon one year. Lovely lady.
And she's a pisser. I love her. She's the best.
Pisser. I don't think I describe Shell as a pisser.
No, I've never heard that used in that context, but I'm going to try it when I get home.
Let's go with it.
Yeah,
Maybe you're a pisser. She's going to be like, was?
Was ist das?
That means
because I'm
something else
German?
in German.
It does. Yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah, I mean, my wife, lets all these people come into our home and
Yeah.
spend all this time here, and she's very, very accommodating. So, anyway, I don't think we can say enough about how great our wives or significant others are at this point. So, all right, well, let's kick this off, and we hope you enjoy the show. Wargamma.com, where you can get resin terrain, craters, lakes, lava pools, and objectives, figure bases for all types of models, character models including Battle Wolf war mounts and spawn seeds, linked barricades. Choose from one of 6 designs to suit the origins of your army, from Star Pharaoh, Spawn Hive, Mechanoid, Dark Ancients, Dradelian Noble, and Chromag Scrapyard. Linked barricade sets include 12 large shields, which are 2 inches wide, and 4 connecting walls. Cover nearly a 30-inch line. Sets also include a matching multi-gun turret. Wargamma.com. Alternative battle miniatures. All right, so we're going to kick it off with a little bit of hobby progress as usual, although this is a little different this time since I'm not going to partake in your hobby progress section, mostly because Jason Mullins here hates to hear me talk about hobby progress. You'll see how addictive it is. But I'm recording episode 180 literally Monday, and this is Saturday evening, so I'm saving my hobby progress for then. I'm more interested in hearing what you guys are up to lately. Let's actually start with Ed.
Wow.
Ed, what have you been up to hobby-wise for yourself? I know you do commission stuff as well.
Yes.
Okay, first off, if people want to reach out to you for commission stuff,
Not going to happen.
not going to happen. Why not?
So recently,
You're not interested in...
well, maybe.
Okay.
We'll see. I kind of had this stall out with my commission work, and
Wait, for you or
For
a
myself.
stall out of things coming into it?
no, for myself personally. So I was doing a commission right around the time Geekend.
Yeah.
And so this guy I was painting stuff for, I kept sending pictures, and it just turned out to be a bad experience.
Oh,
for
really?
me. Yeah, the guy wasn't happy. He wasn't satisfied with the work I did, but I was constantly sending him pictures, kept telling me it looked great. Then when I sent him the stuff, he's like, oh, this isn't what I wanted. So it put it like a sour taste
I
in
can
my mouth.
imagine.
But currently, I'm starting to warm up to it again. One of my buddies, Cheyenne, offered me opportunity to paint something for him.
We all know Cheyenne.
Yeah. Necron, the big Forge World, the new
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That new heavy thing it has?
Construct?
Yeah,
I think it's called
something like
Construct,
that.
yeah. So that's what I've been working on. And by the way, just a pointer for everybody who's trying to build one, because
Did you build it too?
yeah.
Okay.
It's like the Necron Knight thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the instructions are wrong.
Oh, what? No way.
No, I'm serious.
I don't believe it.
Well, okay. Either the instructions are wrong or they gave me the wrong pieces, but I think the instructions are wrong.
The instructions are perfect. The model's wrong.
Yeah. So
Okay, that's
check,
good
make
news.
sure you double check. I believe the piece is 13. that you need to watch out for.
I've been kind of thinking about, like, I was seriously thinking about reaching out to you for Necromunda Gang. Because didn't you just paint one recently?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I was looking at the pictures of that, and I was like, maybe I can have Ed do my Necromunda stuff.
Well, yeah.
We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay. All right. So you kind of started on the commission stuff. What are you doing for yourself personally?
Acquiring things, you know.
Yeah.
I keep my eye out usually for used models because it's the cheapest way.
Yep.
You have to put a little more time into it, but you know.
But on the painting front, you're not doing anything for you personally.
No.
What are you acquiring? Like, what are you working towards?
I made a lot of
non-40K.
No, this is 40K.
Oh, okay.
I made we purchased, me and my buddy, my partner in crime, Blake.
Yeah.
We purchased the starter set for Kill Teams. So
Okay.
I have been working on terrain.
Okay.
And that's been kind of what's helped me get back into painting again.
Okay.
And because of that, I've bought some AdMech stuff.
I've kind of had a terrain resurgence myself. So, yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's actually better.
I think it's relaxing because
Yeah.
you can be a little sloppy. You can kind of mess stuff up.
Yeah.
You know, and correct it, and it's super easy. So, all right. So that's it. That's you, terrain.
Yep.
Nothing exciting.
Sorry.
I think that's all exciting. Who else do we have here?
What's up?
Adam,
I've been painting
also known as Loopy. What have you been working on?
I've been painting. I paint a lot. I paint too much. I think it's an addiction. Since the Codex came out, I've painted like 8 or 9 buggies. Orcs. Yeah, lots of orcs.
Now, just to be clear, orcs are your favorite army.
Oh, clearly. Yeah, in new money, I've got about 26,000 points painted.
Wow.
Yep. And
26,000.
stupid GW freaking subtracted 4,000 points from my army. So I'm like,
So you had 30,000.
I had 31,500 points. Now I have like 26. It's going to take me forever to get to 40,000. It's very annoying. Anyways, I've got some buggies that I painted, and I took some of my old buggies that were kind of really big anyways.
Yeah.
And I got some bases for those, and I converted those into Boondocka Snaz wagons, and they're pretty sweet. I'm super happy with those. And thanks to GW customer support, by the way, for that, because I ordered a bunch of 120s, because on the website it'll tell you they're 120s. They're not 120s. They're like something else. Or 110s, whatever. They're not what it says it is.
Okay.
But they'll exchange it for you. And I've been working on doing some rebasing.
Okay.
I did rebase all my
Boys?
tank busters. Hell no. I rebased all my tank busters and all my ludas, and they're way more stable now. I'll probably end up rebasing the Burnas, but no, I'm not going to.
You're not going to do the boys.
Nope.
It is what it is.
It is what it. I wasn't fighting in more than 2 ranks anyways because the book says not to, but that's fine. People can do what they want. And I've been working on.
Your boys are always welcome at my table.
Thank you. It's hot. I've been working on some Age of Sigmar terrain. Our tournament that we do, our GT that we do, we're doing Age of Sigmar this year, and I did like. Jeez, I don't even want to know. Like $700 worth of GW's hooks people up with terrain if you do a lot of events and if your store has a good
reputation. They have a standing, standing that you stay with.
And we're legit. Our people buy from the store and everything like that. So we have tons of terrain for that I have to work through, and that's gonna be my next couple months.
Okay.
But yeah, I love that terrain. It's great.
Yeah,
you throw it on some bases, like it goes a long way. Those like Azurite ruins, they actually go a long way for Age of Sigmar because you don't need a lot of line of sight blocking in that.
Right.
What you need is big bases so you can put all your models on them.
Right.
So
that's you.
That's what I've been working on. Yeah, I have a lot on the workbench, but
Jason Mullins.
Well, hello.
Now, you have professed to me many times that you are not a fan of Hobby Progress Section.
In general, no. Like a lot of times, I just skip to the meat of podcasts.
Skip right past it.
It depends. Like
Okay.
I'll listen to it for a little bit on every podcast, and then I'm just like, What's the show on? Oh, the show's on Heresy. No, I wanna get to the Heresy.
Okay.
Show me the Heresy. Like I'm not big into podcast foreplay. I want to get right to the meat and bones of everything.
You know, I only listen to the intro and the outro of your show. I don't listen to the meat and potatoes.
Well, that is the important part of my show, is the intro and the outro of the show, because that's where all the jokes are. The content is the BS. So you're listening to our show correctly. We're just an appetizer and a dessert. That's pretty much it.
Excellent.
These are directional microphones. I'm going to ask you to speak directly into the mic and not look at Loopy.
I'm not allowed to look at Loopy.
You can do that.
I can sneak over to
So
the
let's
side.
talk about your hobby progress for a minute.
My hobby progress.
Oh, okay.
So, first,
You know what? We're going to listen to Jason's hobby progress after the closing music of the show, since it's so important. Actually, something that is important is who I have with me now. So let's interrupt Jason's hobby progress, talk about something important for a minute. Todd from Table War, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Carl. I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I wanted you to come on was we mentioned earlier in the show how we are trying to help out some gamers in the Butte County area that was hit heavy by this fire, largest fire in California history, wiped out these guys' houses and that kind of thing, and their collections. And so, as I was kind of talking to you about this, you guys reached out to us, you and Doug, and said you wanted to get involved. Why is it you felt you wanted to get involved in this particular case?
Yeah, well, Doug and I, we like to hop in and help the hobby world in general as much as we can. I think it's everybody's responsibility to do what they can. And, when you own a company, in this industry, I think it's important to give back.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I look back at the years that I've been engaged in this industry, and Doug pulled me into this maybe 10, 15 years ago. And we've had this company for 11 years. I just have been constantly amazed at how generous this community can be. I think maybe 2 years ago, there was a friend of Doug's who had his whole army stolen in San Diego.
Yeah.
And Doug organized the kind of community together to get that person a brand new army. And I remember a bunch of us chipped in. We had another instance of young men and women on the East Coast at a school. We're starting up a club, and we were able to get a lot of people jumping in out of the goodness of their hearts, just giving stuff to this community. And we see great charities like the Nova Open, who are really doing a great job, Lori and Mike Brandt, to help out their pet project charity, which dealing with cancer.
Yeah.
And so it's just an impressive industry. And so this in particular, the campfire hit us, and Doug and I were talking before we saw your announcement that there was a way that we could all give back. Doug and I were talking about it because we both grew up in the California foothills. Doug and I met when we were in 4th grade.
Yeah.
In the California foothills up in Auburn, California, which is maybe an hour and a half drive from where the campfire occurred.
Yeah.
But it's a tinderbox. I mean, these last couple of years have been
Dry.
crazy. It went from dry to then getting these torrential winter rains, which all of a sudden made more stuff grow, which then all dried out and made it worse. And we know this end of the season can be devastating in California. No matter what you do.
Yeah.
So for us, when we were talking about this, thinking about how tragic it was and how it could happen to our family homes in the Northern California area.
Yeah.
And we saw yours as an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, we got something we can do. And so Doug and I talked, and we batted things around together about what we had and what we could do. And we decided to kind of put some special packages together for the guys. And I think we're up to 15 names, if I recall right, at this point.
Yeah.
But we wanted to set these guys up, and we were really impressed to see what some of the other companies were doing as well, including Games Workshop. I think that one an impressive, and I wouldn't say surprising, but I was very impressed to see that they were leading the charge with us on this.
Yeah, it was very interesting in that particular case. I made the post and I had said I was going to reach out to Games Workshop, see if they could help, and I was thinking maybe a couple battle boxes or something, and for them to step up was really great. But honestly, you guys reached out to us. You were kind of Johnny on the spot. I mean, you reached out to us immediately and we're like, how can we help? And I knew at that moment, like I kind of touched on a nerve of people and that people were going to want to jump in and help. So,
yeah. Well, and like I said at the beginning, it's this community, everybody it's such an inclusive family.
Yeah.
You go to events and there's the outlying things that go along with anything competitive, but in general, whether you're in the painting community, you're in the gaming community for this game or that game, it's a family. And so when one person in your family eats it or gets hurt, everyone wants to step in and help. So It's impressive. And that's, to us, is the coolest part. So, so we're stepping up. We're getting a fat mat. And I think in one instance, we're getting a fat mat plus a geomat for, I think, one of the Dungeons and Dragons players. We're getting, we're getting a tableware case for each of the individuals. And we're filling those with a bunch of trays and some other goodies. I think there'll be some tableware dice bags.
Yeah, I saw pictures of Doug and his family actually gathering up the stuff today and posted that on our Facebook group.
They put on red tableware shirts and their hats, their Santa hats, and they went down and they put these things together as a family. They did this. They put them together. We're taking them up to our primary warehouse tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And we're putting them on 2 big pallets. I'll send you pictures of this too, Carl, but we're putting on 2 big pallets. We're sending those up to you next week.
Yep.
And I know you've been gracious to say that you're going to store all that stuff and then drive it all up to the region and deliver it to all the people, which is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, very much, listen, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys stepping up and helping out. This is incredibly generous of you. The folks who have been impacted, I think this is going to really, really make their day and help. I mean, obviously they've lost everything in many of these cases, and I can't possibly imagine, but even if we give them back a little bit of fun and a way to transport that fun around, I think that's going to be amazing for them. Yeah.
Well, we know that the biggest thing to take people out of, the doldrums or recover from any tragedy is to get busy, and what a better way than to get busy with the hobby.
Yeah.
Back with that community that, again, we are also engaged with. Let's go do it together. So hopefully this keeps them busy, keeps them on a lighthearted place, in their mind as they go through this holiday season, and they have just, here's something they can be thankful for, a community that cares.
Although it might be depressing when they receive, we're already taking in a lot of donations from people. As you know, GW is going to provide each of them with an army, a 2,000-point army. But, we've been taking in donations. It's going to help bolster all those armies. And not everybody wanted Games Workshop stuff. Like some people, as you said, lost Dungeons and Dragons stuff, that kind of thing. And it just, I'm really looking forward to delivering everything to these folks. And you've really brightened their day and honestly my day by your generosity. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, it's our pleasure, and we try to be there when it makes sense and when we can do it.
Yeah.
And we're super happy to get involved.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's important to note, you guys are a small company. It's you and Doug, and that's it. So I mean, this is an incredibly
now
generous.
Don't forget those other elves.
Yeah, well, you can't do anything.
We're there. I think there's a shiny picture of them all.
There is. You can't do anything without the support of your family. But I mean, this is not. This is not. I don't want to say this isn't easy for you to do, but I mean, this is. You guys are running a business, and that's your living, and you're trying to make a living. And for you to donate this much is incredibly generous of your time and effort. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, our pleasure. Yep.
So okay, if people are interested, they can go to tableware.com. If you're interested in any tableware products, you guys have the Fat Mat. You just mentioned the the D&D mat. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. The
Geomat.
Geomat
overlay.
You have the macro mat, which is the mat for taking pictures against. You guys sell cases in various sizes, which honestly, it's one of my favorite cases for traveling around locally with my 1,000 Sons. It's amazingly helpful for deploying and getting going. It's fantastic. So I love mine. I'm sure others will love theirs.
I think we fitted out one of the cases as a hobby case for one of the
fantastic,
or one of your hobbyists.
Oh, that's awesome. I have one of those too. And I love it. Like all the bottom drawer has all my paints and everything. It's and tools. It's just fantastic. So, Todd, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to throw out there before we end up?
Just thank you very much. And, everybody that if they want, we still have a sale going on through the end of December.
Perfect.
So people can go on and there's no coupon necessary. They can order up Table War. There's still a couple days left that they can still even get it in time for Christmas.
Nice.
So whatever.
Nice.
Otherwise, I just want to say, Carl, to you and Shell and Tucker, have a beautiful, wonderful Christmas. And we hope to see you in the new year.
Well, you guys too. And I'm sure we will see each other soon. I'll talk to you later.
Right.
Thank you.
All right.
So let's go back and like I said, we'll get to Jason's thing at the end here, but let's hear the games played section.
That's about it.
I think we kind of touched on where everybody's going from here and what you're working on, or going forward too. Let's talk about games played for a bit. Okay. Let's narrow it down to like the last couple weeks, since you guys are kind of new guest hosts on the show. And Ed, what have you been playing? Have you played 40K aside from what you played today?
I have played Kill Teams.
Okay.
I've not played 40K.
Kill Team is Warhammer 40K? Kill Team.
It is. I think, and I find it more exciting, and I feel like when I think about playing a game of 40K, it's large.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
And you think about the effort it takes to just
even
put
write
the
a
models
list
on the table. And
even writing a list can take. If you're doing I can't even think of the word. It's been so long. Not points, but
power levels.
Power levels. It's a lot easier.
Yep.
But just having to think about all these things to worry about and management. I just want to play something simple and easy. Mm-hmm. So that's why I play a lot of video games.
Yeah.
But Kill Teams is just so you get a few models. It's easy to make a list. You don't have to think too hard, and then.
So I listened to your show, and you and Blake were talking about playing a 4-person Kill Team game. I had not played one until today. Yeah. When we had a game day at my house. What do you think about? Have you played any just one-on-one Kill Team now?
So I played a couple of one-on-one games. The first one was against War Boss Doug.
Okay.
Table War fan.
Table War.
He taught me how to play.
Yeah.
It was an interesting game because he's super competitive, but I still managed to win. But
well done.
Yes, thank you.
You know what? He's not all that. He's not all that.
It's tough.
He thinks he is.
Oh man, he's a movie star.
That's right.
Multiple movies.
Yeah.
Did you see his death scene?
No. Was it death scene?
No, I don't know.
I've seen it in my head.
We were
talking
geeking.
Was
he like, Table War?
It was way better than that.
Okay, we'll tell you about it later.
So I played against Doug. We've done a couple games with Blake.
Yeah.
And then we did the 4-player game.
Yeah.
And that experience was it's different because you're right there.
Yeah.
And when there's 4 people, you're getting into combat even faster. It's already a fast game where you're already getting into combat. But with 4 players, and there's always somebody who gets picked on.
I like how you pointed at Loopy. He didn't get picked on. He ran into everybody's guns.
Yeah.
True.
It's partly based on their location, of course. And if you throw them at the enemy, they're going to get picked on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a different mindset. And I was playing against Death Guard.
Yeah.
Right away, and they're unstoppable. So that was my first experience in 4-player game. I felt like I was the one getting picked on because I got charged right away. It was so close. And then I come to realize it tells you in the book 2 mats.
Right.
So
for a 4-player game.
Yeah. So the first couple games, it was like even more.
You're
crazy.
playing on a small.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 players. So it's been an experience,
Yeah.
So I believe that Kill Teams is my future in 40K.
Interesting. How was your experience today? You enjoyed your games today?
Yeah, I played 3 games.
Nice.
I
All
played-
Kill Team.
Yeah, all Kill Team. I had brought a bunch of my orcs.
Yeah.
But I just felt like if I was going to play, my goal was to try to team up with Loopy and just put out a Stampa.
Right.
And that would be my model, just running around the table. And that's all. I didn't want to feel the pressure because I haven't played in so long. I felt I'd slow people down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot you had your Stampa. We should have put it out as terrain in our game. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the games you played today,
Okay.
Loopy, because you played in a pretty big game, actually. It was fun to watch.
I played in a huge game today.
So you played with, you teamed up with Bryce.
Teamed up with Bryce.
You played against Aaron and Josh.
Yep.
Aaron and Josh have both been on the show before, so has Bryce.
Yep.
This was your first time meeting any of... No, you met Aaron before.
I met Aaron at Adepticon,
Yeah.
but this is the first time I met Josh.
And Bryce.
Josh was Pez on the
on the forums.
on the forums.
Pez man.
Yep, I played Bryce yesterday as well.
Right.
We had a game, but today's game was it was really big. They're like, oh, let's do 100 power level. All right, so 50 each. Nope, 100 power level each. I'm like, okay, let's do this. But that's what's great about Open
That
War Deck.
table was so full.
It was
of models.
really full of models.
Yeah.
But it was a good looking game, that's for sure.
really
that
was.
was super nice to see. And I love Pez. Oh man, those orange. I love the orange.
The orange
I'm a sucker
Necrons he
for
was
orange.
running.
Yeah.
So Pez and Aaron were both running Necrons. You and Bryce were both running Orcs.
both running orcs and we played an open war game with the 3 objectives, and if you control all 3 at once, you win the game
instantly. Yeah.
And of course, I had to jump my Ludas over to the other side of the battlefield to grab the objective.
Right.
Charged in with them, and technically we won on turn 1, but we kept playing for a little while and fighting it out because why not, right?
Yeah.
Super fun.
They
Super
should have
fun game.
defended their objective.
Exactly. Yeah, if they'd moved the vehicles back a little bit more, that wouldn't have been possible. I also played with Brian today.
Yeah.
I played Blood Bowl with him today. That was super fun.
Brian from the
Splinter Mind
podcast.
Yeah,
So.
that was a fun game.
Yeah.
I didn't know who that was, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Brian. He's great. We had both Brian and Justin here today. Man, my ovaries, let me tell you. Whew, rapid fire.
And you got to meet Handsome Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty handsome. Not my type. And I played
tall.
I
and
played
muscular.
I played Kill Team with you guys.
Yeah.
Using my Emperor's Children, and they died a lot.
Oh, that's right.
You forgot a rule, though.
Transhuman.
Transhuman physiology. That's a thing. That is definitely a thing. But no, I like Kill Team. It's super fun.
Yeah, that was
Super
my
fun.
first 4-player game, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to think a lot about your strategy there.
Yeah.
I mean, I worried. Oh, what if I'm one that gets picked on? And I was like, well, I'm gonna kind of diversify a little bit to make sure that that's not the case. Like you have to think about.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if I go engage these guys in close combat, then I can't get picked on by these other guys. I'm going to distract this guy. I'm going to focus on getting points in this mission. I mean, I really gave a lot of thought to,
I think
how do I prevent myself from being the one that gets picked on?
Yeah. And I think the initiative role is an even bigger part when there's 4 people.
Yeah.
Because it's like more of a mini game of, okay, if he goes first, then I don't even want to bother shooting at this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of thinking you have to do. I really, really do enjoy Kill Team a lot. And I need to do like a Kill Team campaign at some point. And the thing I would say, too, about Kill Team today, I mean, we had people playing a lot of different things. We had people playing full games of 40K, people playing Kill Team. We played some of Keyforge, that card game, which was pretty fun.
That was super fun.
But I think Kill Team is perfect for an environment like this where we just have a bunch of people come over because everybody could play a bunch of games. We could
and you could
do a
split
campaign in a day almost.
If you have 6 people, you can go 3 versus 3. You can go 2 versus
For
4.
sure.
You can go 2-2-2.
Yeah.
If you have 5 people, 2 versus 3. It's super easy
yeah.
to do with any number of people, which is super great.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see they invested in that game, like more than the Shadow War Armageddon thing. Like they give it a lot of thought.
Yep.
It's a fun game to play. Jason, you played a game with Commanders.
I
have not played Commanders.
I was actually going to say
How did that go?
So, very similar along the lines of regular Kill Team. Like, I didn't feel like we were splashing out a million more points. Your Commanders, at least...
Really pricey.
That's the thing. So, yeah, for the thousands, I've got to fit one more guy in.
Right.
And my Commander.
Right.
So, it was kind of like the Kill Team I had, plus a Gunner, and the Commander.
Yeah.
It was good. I mean, for me, like, so I played against Christian's Death Guard.
Right.
And I just formed a line of Rubric Marines that marched up the field while the Commanders just sat there doing Cybolt into his dudes. And I did no damage with my Rubric Marines. And then the Commanders just started doing mortal wounds and taking out the guys. And it was a great fight. And like,
I mean, I guess my concern is you have, and I have not played a game with a Commander yet, but it feels, I get a little concerned about, well, don't you just gun for the other guy's Commander and then try to...
So in that mission we did specifically, this is the only one I've played with the Commander, because it was kill the Commander.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that is one of the, whatever it is, 3 or 4 missions.
Is he protected in
do.
8th edition? Like you can't target him if he's not the closest model type thing? Or
I
don't know the answer to that.
I am actually not sure because I don't play a lot of 8th edition.
Right.
And Christian didn't bring that up, so I didn't.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
There was
I have no clue.
Also, there was a point where I walked up to him and he was the closest model, so it could have been the case. But yes, I don't remember seeing anything because isn't your sergeant a character too?
No.
So it's independent characters.
Yeah, well, there was no such thing.
So I'm not sure.
Except this show.
We'd have,
There's a
we'd have to
tickle in
double
my
check.
head. There might be a stratagem or something that lets you pass off wounds. I don't remember.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, like every time I play, I feel like I learned something new, and I'm like, I was doing that wrong.
Well, there's a lot of layers to it. And I won't say it's complicated, but like there is some complexity to it. And I feel like, I mean, Doug was talking about this earlier, when it definitely feels more tactical and in-depth than an 8th edition game.
Right.
Because there's a lot more going on, a lot more choices that you have to make on a smaller level, though. So you're concentrating more on these choices with whatever 5 guys instead of looking at a whole army and moving a bunch of stuff. It's super fun, and I found with the 4-person game, it just sort of intensified that and made it a lot more interesting because, like, instead of thinking about the force coming across at you, the priority started to mean a lot more. So who is going first? Who is going second? Sometimes you were like, oh, thank God I'm not going first. Because
other times you're like, oh God, I really need to go first.
Yes. And then that clutch roll happens and you're like, yes. Or some of the stratagems, the interrupt stratagems are more interesting in 4-player games because there was a point where like, I went right before Doug, but he had charged me.
Yeah.
And I used my close combat specialist interrupt to go before he attacked.
Right.
And killed the guy that charged me. And it was like, I was all, yes! And he was like, I hate you. And it's that complexity makes it really interesting.
Right.
And it wasn't stressful at all.
Right.
It was fun to kind of go through. I feel like cards or something where you can get all the stratagems and little things you could do in front of you would be a lot better.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any of the cards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know a lot of those are available.
You can do without it, but it's super easy if you have them.
Unless you're very familiar with it, you're doing a lot of flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
And I did notice that because I was always like, what does this specialist do? What does this specialist do? By the end of the day, though, I had it nailed down what my specialist did.
Right.
And that made it a lot better.
Right.
And I was even stoked on my Rubric Marine Close Combat Specialist because I'm like, oh, that guy does 2 attacks. He's awesome. But yeah, I think Kill Team is really fun. It's my favorite way to play 8th edition, and I really, really, really enjoy it. So that's my
How many
game
games did
played.
you get in? How many games did you get in today?
4.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Of all Kill Team.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And some Keyforge, right?
And around a Keyforge, and then took a break for a while because I'm jet lagged.
Yeah.
Really jet lagged. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a break. We'll come back, and then we have a bunch of questions. We have a Warrior Lodge thing going on here. Since I have, 3 other podcast titans here. I want to.
Is that a fat joke?
I want not about you. And
Huzzah!
It's about your fat podcast.
Old PHAT, pretty hot and tempting.
okay, we'll be right back.
Great Scott, 00. Foam Finger's destroying all the models with his rough touch.
Oh, Mullins Penny. Don't you worry. John is on the case.
How is that, John?
I'm going to warn the world that they should be using the soft blue foam with the hard cases. Foam Finger will never ruin another model again.
You mean Operation KR? Is the world ready for that, John?
The world is ready. I'll make sure of it. The only way is to spoil Foam Finger's plans.
Hard cases with the soft foam is the only answer. You've convinced me, John. Let's move forward with Operation KR.
The name's Jont. Jimmy Jont.
Oh, John. See? Give 00 John the figures for this mission.
Go to krmulticase.com for some of the best storage and transport solutions for your Army. Match almost limitless combinations of cases and trays in the KR transport system to suit your personal requirements. Reasonably priced, KR allows you to transport your minis safely to and from the tabletop, no matter where that battlefield is.
Hard on the outside, soft in the middle. KR Cases is where John always gets his foam. KR Hard Cases for soft blue foam.
All right, we're back, and we are launching into our special kind of year-end Warrior Lodge. I was very happy to have the three of you guys come and visit. Especially Loopy, you came the furthest. Well, no,
Especially Loopy. Especially no, don't roll back.
Come the furthest,
Don't roll it back.
but you have not been here before.
No.
Jason's old hat at this now.
That's true.
In fact, Jason and I only met as he left the area, the Bay Area, and we have hung out more than almost any other of your friends. I think I've come out and visited you more than any other friends since you moved to the UK. So I do have a series of questions here that you guys are aware of. For those who don't know, the Warrior Lodge is a moderated forum discussion, and I thought I'd get some insights into your shows as well as kind of things going on in the community, that kind of thing. But let's start with our first question, which has been, all of you are running podcasts. I think of all of us, you are maybe, Ed, the most partnered podcast, meaning, do you feel that you run the podcast, or is it really like you and Blake are sharing the load equally? Because in my experience, most times what happens is one person kind of spearheads the whole thing, the other person helps out a lot, but really one person drives it. Is that not the case with your team?
Maybe like a 40-60, maybe.
Okay.
But it's
40 on your part?
I was going to say, is this going to be a guess as to who's the 40 and who's the 60?
If it's not 50-50, then it'd be a little bit.
Okay.
But
you
usually,
record at your house.
Yeah.
You set
I
up
do
at
the
your
editing.
house. You do the editing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But lately, since we've made the switch to Libsyn,
Yeah.
I'll put the episode into Libsyn.
Yeah.
And then I tell Blake to type in like all the words and stuff
around.
Yeah.
All the words.
Yeah.
All the language.
All the best words.
Okay. You know all the best. Okay, great. So what have you guys found to be the most rewarding aspect of running a podcast for you personally? Like, how has it changed the way you interact with the game and play the game? Who would like to go first?
Okay.
All right, Loopy, you're up.
Fair enough. I feel like it's made me think about the hobby more. I'm more mindful about how I spend my time, how I play the game, and I mean, I am very concerned about our image and stuff like that. Like I've seen sometimes
the image of your podcast.
the podcast,
Okay.
right, and also the image, like trying to promote the hobby in a positive manner, you know, and that's really why we do it. Well, that and the narcissism, obviously, you have to have some
Clearly,
level.
all of us have this hole you have to fill.
Yeah, exactly. Like nobody starts a podcast who doesn't have some level of narcissism in their hearts. But really,
Are the rest of you as insulted as I am?
No.
Oh,
I get to weasel out of this because I got drafted into a podcast.
But I'm definitely more.
And then started another one, and then another one.
We haven't talked about the third one yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a lot more mindful about the things that I do in the hobby, because as you're doing a podcast, you have to bring up all these topics, and it makes you actually think about why you're playing, how you're playing, and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I don't just show up to a table and roll dice as much as I used to.
You know, the interesting thing, Loopy, you said several years ago, and you probably don't realize I remember this, but you said several years ago, you made a conscious decision at one point that you wanted to be more involved in the community.
Yeah.
And so you said about, commenting on people's things and offering advice. And then I think that natural progression led to your wanting to do a podcast and be more involved.
Yeah, and that's so important. Like when people just post a random thing on a thread or something, like they post their picture and there's 0 comments. Like there's nothing more important in that situation than to drop a comment on there and at least make people feel like they're not
I heard
shouting
I saw
into
what
the
you said.
darkness. You know?
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. This is actually why you help us moderate
Right.
the IC's forum. I really appreciate the context and the tone that you take a lot of times. So it really
thanks.
works out well. Jason, what about you?
I think I've become a lot more accepting and appreciative of everyone else's hobby and the things that people enjoy about the hobby. Like a lot of times now, if someone's super excited about whatever, the World Eaters or the Iron Warriors, like something that maybe I wasn't at first that excited about, I think doing so many podcasts and kind of like talking about so many subjects has opened my eyes to like be like excited about, well, why do you like that? What makes you excited about that? And the things that make the other people excited now get me interested in those things. And my hobby sort of just expanded for that. And it's just made me super accepting of why people want to do this. And it's increased my enjoyment a lot.
Yeah.
And then again, like the strange thing is when you become a podcaster, the podcast itself becomes part of your hobby.
Yep.
And it becomes a circle where you continue to do game stuff and that fuels the podcast and the podcast fuels the game stuff. And you kind of end up having this third sort of hobby.
Yeah, you touched on a point right there that I agree with entirely. You play games to develop content so you can talk about it on the show, but you want to play games because they're fun and you've been talking about it on the show. It excites you. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
And they don't always, it's not always I need to do this because of why. It becomes a cycle.
Right.
It just sort of flies around. Sometimes something will happen and be like, we need to talk about this in the podcast. I don't know if you have these moments, but we all the time do where you'll show up and you're like, how was the game? And then somebody starts talking and you're like, shh.
Yeah. Stop wasting
say
content.
anything.
That's what we say. Stop wasting content. Shut up.
Hold it, soldier.
Ed, what about you?
For me personally, the rewarding factor is seeing the comments or the emails, that you get from people.
Yeah.
And just telling how bad things can get, and then because of listening, I've seen like you get them and you get.
I was actually going to ask. Yeah.
Like you get those things, and it's like, but you helped me get through this, or listening to your show, or helped me get through this hard time. So that's personally like rewarding for me, getting that and the fan support and stuff. And how it's affected me is, I guess it's kind of a repeat, but that kind of drives me to like paint and post things is because it's like, well, there hasn't been a Facebook post in a while. And the only thing Blake does is get movie quotes and describe your part with a movie.
We know where 60/40 is now.
So
what you're saying is Blake needs to step up?
Like, do you mean 40 Blake?
Yeah. So,
Oh no! I'm so sorry, Ed.
it's all right. It's all right, man.
That's 60 Ed to you.
So yeah, it motivates me
Yeah.
to accomplish things and show off.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I completely agree. It's interesting you bring up the letters from people. It kind of surprised me the first time I got something like that, and I was like, oh well, that's nice. And then you see it multiple times. I mean, I think back. It's funny. It came up recently on our group with the new podcast that GW is putting out called Voxcast. I was like, oh well, I teased
Bill.
Bill, saying, hey, they stole your title to your
Yeah.
to your show. Bill used to run the Imperial Voxcast, which I listened to before I ran a podcast, and I remember leaving them a review and them reading the review on the air in my name. I was like, oh, they said my name, And I mean, now I have an entirely different perspective on that, but it was nice to be involved in a larger part of the community and start talking with those guys and then actually meeting them. And after I started meeting you, after we started the show, and we've all hit it off very well. And I think our heads are in the same space a lot of times. But I find it to be very rewarding. I agree that there is this hole that, we all probably need to fill. There's probably a little bit of narcissism involved in it. I try not to really think about that so much and think more about, am I making the show the best I can? And am I entertaining people and remaining positive? Because that's my thing, I want to make sure that I'm just sharing what I enjoy about this. And,
Well, it's all about what you do with it.
right.
If you've got the bully pulpit, what do you do with it when you have it?
And I try not to get preachy, I'm always cautious about I don't want to sound like I'm being.
You got to speak your
preachy
truth, though. You got to speak your truth, and if that rankles people, it's tough.
Well,
tough.
this is okay. So this is interesting. I'm sorry to jump
Yeah,
in.
No, go ahead.
I
please, Jason.
just want to say, I try to be careful about being negative because I don't want to come down on things that people like. I try to be okay with being critical to point out things that I don't like. But I think there's a fine line between being negative and being critical.
Yeah, completely. I'm totally fine with criticizing constructively.
Yes.
What we don't care for. I have sent some very pointed emails to GW specifically about things that I'm like, I don't like this, and here's why, and I think maybe you want to rethink this.
But I mean, we were joking about before where I was bitching about the psychic phase, and I think if I was actually having a segment on it, I would talk. What I want to do is talk constructively about it, but what I don't like
what I would
about it,
prefer
and
to
then-
see is X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Solutions.
constructive, and that's criticism. We were joking before,
Yeah.
and everybody's guilty about that. But you've got to be careful about being negative if you're in my opinion, if you're in a podcast, because people do listen to you, and you do want to bring the hobby into a positive direction. I mean, at least I do. Like I have a lot more fun listening to positive things and going like, oh yeah, that's right, that thing is wrong, or yes, that's the way things should go.
No, I mean, that said, I think there's absolutely an audience out there for people who want to hear the negative aspects of things. Like, it's not my audience,
Yeah.
I if that's what you want, well, you're clearly listening to the wrong
well, like
show
I
here,
said-
but I think there is a genuine audience for people. You just said
Being critical is
I
fine.
like to listen to things. I'm trying to remember the exact quote of what you just said, but you said something to the effect of, I like to listen to things that are positive about what I'm
constructive.
constructive and positive. But I think there are people who very much want to hear shock jock type radio,
Yeah.
type talk, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I just think that's not me.
But again, like I said, criticism is a fine line,
Yeah.
and a lot of times comes down to opinion, because I find criticism great.
Yeah.
Like when you go through and talk about these rules don't work or this or that, a lot of times you can offer house rules.
Yeah.
You can talk about what you do to mitigate that. Like there's a lot of positive solutions you can do to negative problems.
Sure, I would agree.
And I think kind of going through and talking about that is kind of more what I want to do.
So we may have bled into question 2, with a little bit, which is what are the most frustrating aspects about running a podcast for you personally, and how does the community help with those frustrations, and what's the most trouble it's ever really caused you? Like something frustrating you or a problem within the podcast. Anybody?
Well, I mean, it's like having a band. It's your second girlfriend. Every once in a while, you get in a fight with it, and and then you break
Is that
up.
something you want to tell us?
And then yeah, no, I was just.
Well,
So
actually, you know what? You touched on an interesting point there because, people who've listened to the show for a long time knew Jeff was my original co-host. We parted on very, very amicable terms. Like, he wasn't playing 40K, and he was like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I really want to do this anymore. And I was like, okay, do you want me to stop the show? Because you and I created it together, and I'll stop it if that's what you want. And he said, no, do whatever you want. We had a previous member, Zach, who was on the show, and we just had different visions on what we wanted to do. And, so when Jeff left the show, I said, whoever I bring on, whether it's a Don or Justin or you guys or, whoever was going to come on and guest, I decided it's my show, right? Like it's going to be my show. It's not a band. I'm David Lee Roth going off and doing my own thing, which is terrible. And I use him as an example because his solo stuff is not good. But the fact was, it would succeed or fail based on the decisions I made.
Yeah.
And I had all the input, and I'm open to input from any of my friends that want to be on the show. If they say, hey, I got an idea for a show. Okay, let's hear it. But I pick the topics. I pick this as the direction and the tone of the show. And if that doesn't gel with you, well, that's fine. You don't have to be on the show. That's cool. I'm no hard feelings.
Well, I mean, so what brought it up was so in the Overlords, the reason Johnny and I ended up starting Sons of Heresy was we sort of had a different vision than Steve did. And Steve had left the hobby for a long time. Steve had come back, and he was interested in sort of taking the Overlords in a new direction. So we sort of stepped back because we wanted to focus on Heresy. We were only really interested in Heresy at that point. That was the 90% of our content. So Johnny and I kind of stepped off and partnered to start Sons of Heresy. And that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah.
And Steve took back over the Overlords, and they went off on kind of a different direction than we had been running it for a couple of years. But that was sort of just remind me of the band analogy. It's a relationship that you have to manage. And you have sort of taken, since you sort of ended up being okay, this is my podcast, I'm taking it in this direction. That's cool. Because it's your podcast. Now you have the vision. Yeah. And you're following that vision. And you have guest hosts, and that's awesome. And I think
it's exhausting though too.
And that was the other thing though. And this is when I was running the Overlords, I always set the show notes. I ever did everything. I had to drive everything, and that can be exhausting. Yeah. So this is why when we did Sons of Heresy, we kind of ended up splitting the tasks. Yeah. And Johnny actually ended up writing a lot of the show notes, pretty much all of season 1. But I ended up doing all of the editing and kind of all the behind the scenes work. Yeah. But this is why our editing got a lot better because I spent most of my time focusing on it. This is where the commercials came from. I wrote the commercials, got them all spliced together, and did all that stuff. And so splitting up that has its benefits as well. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we should throw it to these guys.
I'm just about to. What about you, Loopy? So what have you found has been frustrating about running a podcast?
I hate promoting the podcast. I hate having to I wonder.
I'm sorry, what was the name of your podcast?
The Masters of the Forge. No, I don't like the fact that social media makes it difficult to promote your podcast without paying money to do so. Okay. I am very grateful for all my friends and stuff in the community who help promote the podcast, like you guys did, and Blake and Ed certainly did. Everybody, you guys had us on. That was super awesome. I remember that we had an episode of the Overlord. I think it was when you were on the Overlords. You guys had us on. Super appreciated that. I think that helped a whole lot. Yeah. But it's super hard to get your voice out there, and the important if this
there's
is
a lot of 40K podcasts.
There's a lot of 40K podcasts out there,
especially now.
Yep.
And I think if this is being listened to by someone who wants to use this as advice, my advice is to, and this is really true for anything you're doing creatively, is to just try not to swear. Don't be awful. And try not to be awful. I try really hard, but sometimes my fellow orc players make it really hard. But, try not to be awful on the internet or anywhere else. Try to be helpful. Try to be a good person first. Try to have good content, and you may find that people are willing to help you. Mm-hmm. And that's really, and if you're the kind of person who's just like, I'm gonna be me no matter what, and well, good luck with that. Just good luck with that, because maybe that's not enough to get your voice heard. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who feel like their voice isn't heard at any level of their lives don't understand that sometimes if your voice is too coarse, life isn't going to give you the things you want.
Right.
And it's true for podcasting, and it's true for life.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. I mean, watching your podcast numbers, and Libsyn makes it easy, by the way. And we're not sponsored by Libsyn, but I kept telling you guys, you got to get on. Yeah. It's just super easy to see your reporting and what's going on. And I mean, there's times where you're tied to it. I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't really pay attention to it anymore, just because fortunately we've been very successful. But I think that the piece of advice I would give there in terms of that is you have to be patient. I mean, when Jeff and I started the show, we had, I remember when we'd had 1,000 listeners an episode, and we'd be like, wow, we've got 1,000 listeners, and well, we have 999. One's my mom, or, it was like, and, we looked for opportunities to promote the show when it was appropriate, and we, just kept staying true to ourselves and what we wanted to deliver. And I mean, some of it was timing. We kind of came in at the right time when other shows had left, and so we got lucky in that aspect. But I think there is a lot of competition out there, especially in the 40K space. I can see that's frustrating.
Since we're on the subject, I want to put one other piece of advice: is consistency. And this is a problem with us now, with everyone's
even I've
schedules.
run into it lately. I've just been so busy with work.
And I think people really like a podcast, and whether it's once a month or every other week, to be able to go, oh, hey, independent characters out, or oh, hey, X, Y, and Z is out, and they go back to the well. Yep. During that period. And so if you're trying, good content and consistent content,
and it's
I think are the two
things. I used to read a lot of web comics, and like the web comic that started being inconsistent, I would lose interest in, because you just be like, oh, well, they're not.
That's one thing I noticed with numbers on the Overlords and this, because the Overlords ran into the same problem, and like the numbers were high, and then we were inconsistent for a while.
And then you see them drop.
And I saw them drop. Yep. And Sons of Heresy was the same thing, especially since we had like a 6-month hiatus.
Yeah. Well, I took a year break, and we saw a significant drop in that year, but it kind of sprung back. It's funny, every now and then somebody will call and they're like, oh, you guys are back. We're like, we've been back for like 2 years, man. Like, we've been back twice as long.
Worst kept secret on the internet.
Ed, what about you? What have you found frustrating? I mean, you're such an easygoing guy most of the time. I always try to get you frustrated. You don't seem to get frustrated.
Yeah, basically doing all the work for the 60%.
Oh my God!
At least 60% of it.
60% of the time, Ed works all the time.
Blake, I do not condone the words that are being said here. I'm on your side.
We love Blake.
Oh, yeah.
Blake, 60% of the sexy. There we go.
Yeah, that's
40%
that's
of Blake.
true.
Half of the things that I post on the Facebook page that I paint, people say, "Oh, that's really nice, Blake. Good job." So, yes, it is. And I think 90% of the time it's just to try to get me upset.
Okay.
So it works a little bit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I'll even put in the, "Hey, look what I did, Ed," and they'll be like, "Oh, nice work, Blake." And so, I think the most frustrating thing for me right now is the time.
Yeah.
So because I have to edit the show, and that takes time when I could be doing other things that I enjoy, right? So it's a
like watching
major
Blake paint.
Yeah, like watching Blake paint.
That takes the other 40% of his time.
Yeah, and it's just dry brushing. It's crazy. We're expanding, right? So we started our Patreon. So in order to give them extra, we started doing hobby hangouts on a Monday, where they get to come in and with us they'll paint, and we're on camera so we can hang out together and paint with the
Blake's
patrons.
dry brushing.
Yeah, with the patrons. Yeah. So having that cuts into hobby time too, right? And then we started another podcast. So that cuts into more time because now we have to record, and then I edit that show too.
Right.
You edit that one too?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
I like editing. Does no one else here like editing?
No.
No, I got tired of it.
Yeah.
You know what though? But I only mainly do the editing now and like the production stuff. So I guess that's.
I am super, super lucky that Jason, my co-host, does all the editing, and he is a literal doctor of sound.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
He's a sound doctor. Yeah,
Wow.
That's right. Yeah.
Dr. Sound.
So, yeah, doctor. I do all the show notes. He does all the editing, and it's a beautiful relationship. I do all the posting and stuff too. But we have a pretty symbiotic relationship.
I'll do segments and stuff now, and I like doing some notes, but like not having to do everything and drive everything, I think helps. And like I've really started liking editing since I did the commercials. That I like, and I learned a lot more about editing, and I learned about fading and like doing like I just kind of explored Audacity and the things it could do. And once I got that down, I had a lot of fun doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like our end credits where we'd fade the music and do the because I was just like Cannonball Run where they had the where they had the scenes and you could still hear the music underneath.
Yep.
That was exactly
That was
what I
great.
wanted to
That
do.
was great.
And so that's what we did.
Yeah, I think if you're lucky enough to have the balance, like I joke about Blake not doing much, but he does. So like when we have guests, he tries to set up those most of those interviews, and but editing does take time.
Yeah, it does.
But it's like an art as well. So I like painting. I like when we do the commercials. You know, it's fun doing the sounds and finding the sound effects and everything like that.
Do you know what's funny is people say they listen to podcasts while hobbying. I actually edit while I'm hobbying. I will like get a whole bunch of models. I'll sit there and I'll listen to the entire podcast and then stop it, edit, go through. Because I can put the paintbrush down. It's easy enough to do. And that's like when I get my most intense hobbying done is when I'm actually editing the podcast.
I can't do that. I kind of can't do anything else but just get it edited, and that's that.
This is because you cut out every I let those things
I haven't
stand.
done that for years.
Oh, really? Okay.
He just stopped saying it.
Wait. Let's check.
That one's going to be in there.
Yeah, and you're the one that's going to sound like an idiot, not Carl.
Not me. I still say it, just not as often.
So-
I have other voice ticks.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe it'll come back to you. In the meantime, let's talk about this. So where do you guys see your hobby and the various podcasts that you're on going in 2019? And Ed, let's start with you.
Okay.
Because you guys have some exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah. So for us, we're doing the other podcasts, which is a D&D. It's called 20-Sided Realms.
Nice.
TSR. Nice.
TSR.
play on words.
Yeah, that was me.
I love your podcast. I love it. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really. You guys should listen to it.
Thank you.
Really cool.
You're into D&D?
Yeah. If you like D&D or listening to people play, it's me, Blake, and then Josh, who was the creator of
Big Cat.
Yeah, Life After the Cover Save. We got together and started this other project as a Patreon thing, and then we decided let's just run
Spin
it
off and do it on its own.
Yeah.
Is Travis involved in it?
Travis is involved. He's a DM.
Yeah, he's fantastic, DM.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
All right. He is very funny.
So that's so
That's four funny people. What the heck?
Yeah, I know it's weird.
Does any D&D get played?
No.
Yeah, no,
They still are in the tavern. It's been 4 adventures.
it's really it really
just about
moves.
to leave.
It really moves along, and it's really funny. And they are tromping through the Underdark right now.
checking
Like,
it out.
It's because
It's really
Travis can
He
be
keeps it
funny
moving
and
along.
still move
Yeah.
it forward, which is
Yeah.
good. And he does all the voices, for the different characters.
Right.
So that I think is kind of getting popular a little bit.
Good.
So I think, I don't know, it might take more of our time doing that.
Interesting.
Because in our mind, if Blake can ever get a regular job, where he gets weekends off, we could like rent out a house and do a campaign,
and record the whole thing,
and record like
and break
18 hours of show in a weekend.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of
that'd
fun.
be really cool.
Yeah.
Everybody's mic'd during this.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. What about you, Loopy?
What am I doing? Oh, so for the podcast, we are shifting some things around. Again, just like you guys, we've had a little bit of a couple weeks extra here where we didn't release anything. It's gotten a little crazy. Have a baby coming.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, sir.
So regular episodes are going to be monthly.
Can I point you to From Diapers to Dice Bags episode something of the independent characters?
I have a very understanding wife, but at the same time, you want to give and take.
Focus.
You got to give and take, right? So we're going to go monthly, but those monthly episodes are going to be as in depth and as detailed as I can make them. So we're going to have good notes, good scripts, good topics, and those will be very in-depth topics. And then we're releasing these Masters of the Forge prototypes episodes that are like 15 minutes long, and they're just going to be kind of, how you have like unboxing videos on the internet, like of the new stuff. It'll be like that, except more focused on narrative play, and we'll actually, where possible, actually play with the stuff before making comments about it.
Right.
So that'll. So we're kind of doing trying to do both at once, trying to be somewhat topical on the new stuff, but have whatever topic we want for our big episode every month.
Very cool.
Yeah, that'll be super fun.
Jason, what about you?
So Sons of Heresy has been kind of on hiatus.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it, but it seems like we're starting up again. Things are calming down for Johnny. He got a new job. Brendan got a promotion a while ago. Like we all just got super busy. And hopefully we'll start doing that in a monthly release. That's kind of what we always aimed for anyway. Pete and I, Perfect Pete and I, and his friend Ben, who do the Frontier Games stuff, the really cool Zone Mortalis events that they are running in Southampton, are actually working on a new podcast.
Podcast Pete now.
Podcast Pete. And that is called, oh my God, Frontier Radio. The funny part is like we've recorded a bit of the first episode and I keep messing up the title.
Okay.
And they keep correcting me and I left it because I think it's just too funny. So Frontier Radio is going to be talking about narrative gaming, and it's going to be reviewing different games kind of going forward. A different game kind of.
So moving outside of the heresy stuff.
Yes.
And
so, I mean, we'll probably
stuff.
talk about plenty of heresy, but like we're talking about looking at Frostgrave. We're talking about looking at a whole bunch of different games.
Primarily miniatures or board
Primarily
games?
miniatures, some board games.
Okay.
We have some video game talk in the first one. So it's going to more of a generic sort of magazine kind of thing. And it's us just kind of like, I think we're starting to find more focus. Like we just kind of did the first episode.
Right.
And that's still kind of in the middle of being edited. And we were sort of talking about how we wanted to focus this.
Okay.
And we're sort of narrowing in right now.
It takes a few episodes to find your voice, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was something. And we were like, do we want to do another Just Heresy podcast? And I'm like, no, I have a Heresy podcast. I mean, we can let's look at a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
And again, that's more like, going to be a monthly thing.
Cool.
And so, look for that coming out soon.
All right.
Be edited this week.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We'll come back, and I have some more like gaming focused questions for each of you. So we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Big Nasty B from Life After the Cover Safe, and I'm at a mall talking to strangers about Table War. Table War develops some of the most innovative products for the miniature wargaming and hobby industry.
And I develop pictures.
That's great. They develop things like the Fat Mat.
Who's Matt, and why is he so fat?
Well, first off, Matt is not a person. The Fat Mat is a tabletop gaming surface, and with over 40 different designs, Table War's Fat Mat has become a community standard.
I got a Surface Pro. It's like 10 inches. By the way, I'm meeting my friend Simbon. Do you know what that is?
No, but I do want to tell you about the Table War Tower case line.
Oh man, towers are so huge.
Well, it's not that kind of tower. It's the original modular, all-in-one display, storage, and transport system for all your tabletop miniatures.
Wow, you're really smart. What's your relationship status?
Well, it's complicated, but you know what isn't complicated?
Chili dogs.
This is true, but also the Macromat.
Oh geez, not that guy again.
The Macromat is a one-of-a-kind, innovative photography backdrop, perfect for collectibles, hobby miniatures, and small works of art. Its durability, portability, and functionality in one inexpensive product.
I wasn't paying attention to what you just said, but do you validate parking?
No, I do not. But if you want more information, head over to tablewar.com and check them out.
Table War!
All right, and we're back for the second part of our Warrior Lodge segment, and we're going to start off with our next question, which is, what motivates you in the hobby? Is it the rules? Is it the lore? Is it gaming? Is it painting? Is it just getting together and being social? Like, what really drives you to continue with this hobby? What keeps you moving? Ed, you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fame. Fortune.
Perfect.
Fortune.
Oh, dude, the money it won't stop.
No.
Look at this place.
Yeah. Yeah. I've run out of mattresses to fill my
Making
money.
it rain.
Run out of mattresses.
You know what?
We've
You
run
could use that money to buy some mattresses. Just saying.
I never thought of that. So smart. I
I'm
think
called the problem solver.
I think the social aspect by far. Literally, I drove hours to come here.
Yeah.
For this weekend, and
Just to hang
right
out with
after
people,
work.
play games.
Just to hang out with people that I've met before.
Yeah.
And I can talk to on my phone. But to come in and hang out and then meet new people is an experience.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, it's in a way it's like a geek end, right? But it's I don't know. I just made friends.
Yeah.
Right. They come out as acquaintance, but then you do an event like this, and then you're closer, and you start talking more, and then you go across the globe and crash at someone's house.
Yeah.
Because now you're their friend, and now you got a room to stay when you go to England, right,
Yeah.
Jason?
I was gonna say not naming anyone specific, but yeah,
So
we'll squeeze you in.
yeah, it's just. And it's fun because you're just laughing and just having such a great time that you never want it to end, but it has to, right?
Does it?
It just happens again.
Move in, Ed.
You just
You know what? This was a good mix. This weekend was a good mix of people. Like it was, everybody was having a lot of fun, and it was a nice mix.
What Carl's saying is you can take that money and stuff his mattresses.
Yeah, take that, all the people who aren't here.
What about you? What motivates you there, Adam? What kind of gets you? Why this hobby, and why keep going with it?
Well, the question that
Other
was
than the fact that you have 34,000 points of orcs.
26,000 now.
Yes.
Very
Oh, right,
unfortunate.
26.
Very
Sorry.
unfortunate.
Thanks, Games.
Thanks for rubbing
Thanks,
that in.
thanks a lot, Games Workshop. I thought that the post that was made on our community site was insightful, and there were a lot of great answers to that one. And but for
Which post was
the
that?
one where the person asked like how do they rank the things in their hobby that was most important to least important, and I'm not sure if people were surprised or not, but for me it's playing the game.
Was this the one that kicked off the pillars of the hobby discussion?
Yep, that one. And for me, it is playing. And I have a narrative podcast. It's all about narrative play, but there's play in that. There's it's not just a lore based podcast. It's not just the lore. It's not just painting. Even regardless of my however many thousands of points of models I have, or even the podcast itself. It's everything leads to getting together with people and playing games, and that's all it's ever been for.
Yeah.
That's what the podcast is for. The podcast and all the events I run, everything is about maintaining the health of the community and making sure I can grab my stuff and go to the game store, grab my stuff and go to an event.
Yeah.
And play it in a lot of ways. Anything altruistic that you do is somehow self-serving. And that's what it is.
We talked about that earlier this week.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is. It's you have to put something into it in order to get anything out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you touch on an interesting point about the community. Like Adon in our group has worked so hard to build a community up at this in-game store, and now that the store is shutting down, he's like, I feel really bad for Adon. He's trying to find a place where he can kind of carry on that tradition that he's built, and there's not something nearby that kind of fits that mold. I'm sure it'll work itself out, but it is, he's put so much effort into that, and to see it kind of collapse now, it's unfortunate.
I know how I would feel were that to happen to
if
me.
your game store that you play at,
I would feel as if, well, damn, what if I had done that one more event, or what if I'd done a little bit more outreach? It's like you can't break yourself up, but you do what you can.
I think Adon
do what you can with your life. Certain things have to come first.
Yep.
Sometimes it is not the Warhammer community.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Jason, what about you? What drives you here?
So it was interesting because we had kind of talked about this in notes, and I jotted some thoughts down. But while you guys were talking, I had kind of evolved what I was thinking. So the narrative stuff is kind of what keeps me coming back to the well. Like, I enjoy telling stories and kind of like creating my characters and coming up with ideas for who they are and what's going on. But something that really sort of expanded on that is actually when you said the social aspect. And I was like, but what makes that exciting is you do it together with people. And that sort of like group creation thing is kind of, maybe it comes from role playing basically, but like, that I think maybe is what keeps driving me back. Like, and what I really enjoy is sitting down and hobbying and creating this little force or unit and kind of giving them a story or developing a story. Usually, sometimes I'll just paint them and they hit the field and the story develops from there. But I really kind of enjoy that whole process. But again, like playing those games, it becomes a social thing, and that I think actually is what I really enjoy.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, without a doubt, it's the social aspect of it. I've said this probably 100 times on the show now. I mean, I've made friends with all of you. Yeah. We're all very close friends now. I mean, we didn't know each other before before this podcast. None of us did.
I barely knew you before I moved to England. I think we met twice or something.
Maybe, yeah. And on top of that, I've made friends, as you said, Ed, around the globe that I can go hang out with. We've seen Games Workshop itself change significantly in the last couple of years, to the point where, I have friends in the company that I never thought, when we started this, like that was an unassailable fortress.
Yeah.
You never heard anything out of there. I made very close friends. I watched one of those friends pass away. Affected me harder than I ever thought, but I never would have even had that experience in life had it not been for the game. So, just honestly meeting people and playing fun games. I met Austin, our newest member here, at Adepticon last year, because the show, and I just met his friend Ian. We were playing a game. He said, "Hey, I'm moving out to your area. Oh, well, you have to come by and play with us." And we've hit it off amazingly. Shell's made friends as a result of the podcast too. So and the game itself. So to me, it's absolutely the social piece I wanted.
I was going to say, Francisca always goes, "How do you know this person?" And I'm like, "She's on Warhammer. I know.
Shell just calls them my internet boyfriends now. So
that's Wendy's phrase. I don't think any of us should be surprised that we all had to have the same answer.
Yeah, I think
because
it's not surprising.
This is what we do it for.
Maybe it's a stupid question. Why did I even ask?
But it was good though, because I had all these notes written down about other things, and then when you said social, I was like, it really is social. It's those other things that make me excited. Sorry, go ahead.
It's great. No, absolutely, I agree. No, we just this is what we do. This is what we're here for. And I think, I wonder how much, with all the darkness out there in the community, I wonder how much shows like yours, Carl, and I guess all of us, where we have a positive outlook on the hobby, and we bring all these people onto our shows and stuff to show the world that a lot of the community is great and there's a lot of great people in it. I wonder how much that actually may have actually had an effect on how Games Workshop has progressed as a company.
That's an interesting question, and I don't know, and I don't think there's any way to say for sure.
There's no way.
Right. Yeah. I do feel that my show was probably the first one to really kind of embrace look, we're all about enjoying this hobby for what it is and being positive about it and kind of leading the charge. At least I feel that way. Now, others may disagree, but that's how I feel. And I think we were kind of the first ones to really spearhead that kind of message. And it's brought me some negative commentary as well, but whatever, I just ignore that and move on.
I will say that, so it's through your podcast that I really saw the worth of that.
Yeah.
I think I've always been a little more critical.
A very positive person, actually.
But I mean, I think even on the Overlords, I was more critical than you. But that really,
and we've had back and forth about that.
Yeah. But it was your kind of outlook in the beginning that made me think about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I think that being critical is fine, but being positive, I think, is important for the community. It's important for me, and I think that's kind of what I want to present and project.
Yeah.
And and we're funny. Like a lot of the podcasts, like the Overlords or Sons of Heresy, focus a little more on humor.
Yep.
So we'll make off-color jokes about stuff, but we mainly try to be a positive force.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think I think it probably has had an effect. I think there has been a groundswell of, and again, maybe I'm in a bubble a bit here. I mean, our Facebook group is full of like-minded individuals, and the people who are not of the independent characters
mindset?
I don't know, mindset, typically don't really last in that group, or they find something that this doesn't work for me, and they leave, or they are asked to leave. And that's okay. And I've said, I don't know how many people we have in that group now, 3,500 or something.
Tons.
I don't really pay attention to the number because I would rather have 25 people in that group who are excited about the hobby and looking to have fun than 3,000 people who are upset about the next release or the next Primaris Lieutenant or whatever the case may be. And so I do think that at a minimum, we gathered together people who wanted to feel this way and wanted to be excited about what they were doing. And I think that collective voice probably did have some impact. I mean,
yeah, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back about it. And it's very much, and I see where you're going with this. It's very much, you lay the groundwork, and all the people working with you laid the groundwork, but it took the whole IC's community to show Games Workshop that there is a good, hobby-centric, positive group of people out there. So it really, the community should pat itself on the back, right?
I would agree.
For embracing what you spearheaded and showing GW that we actually care about their health and the future of the hobby.
I think that there are people at Games Workshop who listen to this show. I know for a fact there is.
Yeah.
Many, and they like it. And because, of course, they like it. We're not sitting there complaining about what they're doing. I mean, they put their heart and soul into the work they're doing. And to hear somebody go, well, that's terrible. Yeah. Like I think I said that either John French or Aaron, I was like, I think it was Aaron Dembski-Bowden who had written a book. And I said, so is it disheartening when you spend a year writing this book, it releases, and the next day I'm like, that was a good book. When's the next one? Right? And he said, no, it's I'm excited that somebody liked it that much, that they read it that quickly and it absorbed it. I know there's people there that listen to this show. I don't know how much influence or pull they have, but I think certainly the Warhammer community itself, meaning the GW one, has reached out to us on a number of occasions. And so, of course, I think we've had some impact. I don't know what that impact is.
Yeah.
It could be very minor. It could be grandiose, but I doubt it. I doubt it's grandiose, but...
I think that that conversation leads perfectly into our next question.
Which is, we're all hearing that Games Workshop is doing so much right these days from their marketing videos, which, by the way, that I think my favorite one so far is the Noise Marine video.
Oh my God. I'm so excited
Just
for
so
my
funny.
army.
And there's great ones, but I think that's my favorite one.
I don't think that they would. I don't think they're going to release a Noise Marine and then not give me more.
There's more chaos coming, I'm sure. To the community outreach, to just listening to people. They're my boss has a saying she always says, which is assume positive intent.
Yeah.
Right? Assume that the person you're working with, if they're frustrating the heck out of you, assume they're not trying to upset you.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to you guys are on the same page. You're trying to get things done. I assume positive intent in most cases with Games Workshop. Like these folks are trying to get things done, and they're doing a great job of it. What is Games Workshop doing wrong, though? Like, what would you like to see them improve upon, and see where it goes from there? What are your thoughts about what they could do better? I mean, no doubt they're doing great. What could they do better? Let's start with you, since you made me lead into this question. Adam, what's up?
For me, I'm going to get specific.
Okay.
I have a very specific thing, and I am quite the sycophant, but I do understand that there are a great deal of things involved in this situation. And it's not easy to release models. It's not easy to develop kits.
Yeah.
But I think that the character situation, I'm not going to call it untenable.
When
but
you say
it's
the character situation, what are you referring to?
like 50% reduction in independent character, or in what we used to call independent characters in the codexes.
Oh, okay. So reduction.
People do not like that. If at some point we're going to have to stop using indexes for match play.
I gotcha.
And a lot of really nice models that people, and we're not just talking about like old timers who just have a bunch of lead sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want lots of options for their characters. Like that's the whole point.
What
Like,
characters have been worked out? Like, do you have some
like
specific-
anything on a bike? Pretty much.
Chaplain on a bike is
90%.
gone.
90% of things on bikes are gone. Lots of, for example, the Orc Codex. Like I personally don't. I mean, I don't really have much of a horse in the race, but
Oh, really? Because your name's on it.
yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
And it has a
I'm
character
not,
and a bike.
I'm not super upset about it. It's
Or
a
a horse in a race,
That's right.
or a bike on the track.
yeah.
He's
So
60% upset.
like just
He's 40% okay with it.
just a simple Big Mac. Just a simple Big Mac, no upgrades, no nonsense, just a Big Mac, or being able to customize your. So we do have the new chapter approved character creation, which is super sweet, but people want the models. People want themselves represented on the battlefield as a character. That's what
Okay.
they want. They want that, and the old Space Marine Captain kit. That should be the gold standard for how you do at least one of those for every army.
Okay.
There needs to be that one kit that has all the options to make your character like War Boss. There should be a War Boss multi-part kit. Space Marine Captain, Primaris Captain. There should be a multi-part kit for that. Archon. There should be an Archon multi-part kit with a bunch of options so you can make your character. And that's what. For me, that has to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just ask clarification, because I don't play as much 8th as you guys do? Is the problem is a lot of these options that weren't actually on the model kits disappeared off the models?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. For example, they did not sell a chaplain on a bike.
Because they don't have a chaplain on the bike.
There is no model for a chaplain on a bike.
So
you had
therefore
to kit bash it together. So now they have removed. Well, it's in the index, but in the new codex, there is no such thing as a chaplain on a bike.
Okay.
Because they don't make a model for that.
Right.
Which is a result of
No model.
the
Yeah,
lawsuit they went through and blah, blah, blah.
Yep. So, and I understand why they're not in the codexes.
Yeah.
Because
But you're just saying, yeah.
let's work on these characters.
So you're saying bring them back?
bring them back, or let's start making let's put some effort into making character models that will replace or hopefully bring back the kind of characters we had before, so people can have unique characters to fit their vision of the story that they're trying to tell with that character.
Okay. Jason, what about you?
So I think that, and this is primarily coming from Heresy, that the coverage of Heresy over the last few years has been lacking. Some of this is understandable with kind of what happened and the passing of Alan, and sort of the ball. I don't want to say the ball being dropped because that sounds like they made a mistake. I mean, we understand the team had a setback. But I feel like the kind of coverage of Heresy over the past few years has been lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would completely agree with you, by the way.
I just looked at how many articles were on Community, like when I was kind of looking through the notes, and there was like 12 or 13 articles in this last year about Heresy on Community, and countless about everything else. And that's including the Titanicus stuff as well, which as a primary Heresy player, I don't really include that with the Heresy stuff. I know it's in the era.
It's set in that era, but it's not part of the 30K game.
And it is getting better, and I see it coming up, and I see, especially with the release of the new book. But it would be nice. I mean, there was a period where we went through every Friday, and Forge World would release a new Heresy model. And the Heresy community was like, oh, what's going on? It's Heresy Friday. And then we went through the cutbacks for when they kind of reduced their stock
models. It
was really depressing for the Heresy community. And there wasn't a lot of communication from them.
Right.
There was some back channel stuff that said, hey, don't worry about it. Heresy is not going away. That kind of got around the community. But there... And then I think there was a video actually that came out when they were talking about the new rulebook before the new rulebook came out. But I feel like there could be a lot more Heresy content coverage. They have the community team. They know what's coming up. I think battle reports would be good.
Doug Neal was just talking about a letter in White Dwarf. Somebody was saying, hey, we'd like to see a Heresy battle report. And they said, yeah, that's a great idea. I think they'll probably end up doing that. Right?
Even if there's not a lot of new stuff coming out, it would be nice to have consistent Heresy content. A lot of us really like it. A lot of us focus on Heresy, and a lot of us love it. I mean, and that's, I think, a really positive thing, I guess. And that, so again, we're just asking for more Heresy coverage from the community and more information from Forge World and the rest of GW.
Okay. Ed, what about you?
Oh, man, this is a really hard question.
Yeah.
Because...
You're not quite as involved as you used to be with 40K specifically.
Well, yeah, I guess. I wasn't going to go there.
But I mean, that's fair. I think it's a fair assessment, right?
But I feel like when I was in deeply, the content was coming out slow.
Okay.
And now it's coming out so fast. It's just like a bullet train, right? And every week there's something. It used to be like, oh, next month or 2 months from now you're going to get this. But it's like every week almost there's like, and then there's a rumor mill, and then there's this. So they're just doing so much stuff right that it's hard to pick out something that I feel that they're doing wrong. Because I can't complain that there's too much.
Yeah.
Although I wish I could.
It's funny we were talking. So I used to work for Yahoo, and at the end of the year we would go to this thing called the year-end party. They called them YEP, right?
Okay.
The year-end party, and you'd go, and it was at this beautiful pavilion with multiple tents and entertainers and free food and free alcohol and just all these events and music and all this stuff. And the first time my wife and I went, we were like, "This is amazing." And the second year we went, we were like, yeah, this is a lot like last year, but this is pretty cool. And the third year we went like, it's really big and you can't find the people you're looking for. And I felt like a jerk for complaining about it because it was so good, but you're like, So, I mean, you don't want to complain, right?
Yeah. I just sometimes feel like it's overwhelming, the speed in which
it can be,
the things that come out. It's like,
I think on this show, Jody, who you met today, brought up at one point. He realized, yeah, but I don't have to buy all this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to keep up with it.
It's hard because
You
everything
want to.
looks so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is
Can
awesome.
I jump into something that we were talking about today? And this is, and I don't know how to solve this problem, but this is something I noticed as a casual 40K player.
Yeah.
And casual 8th edition player. Like things like just fly so like this is what you're talking about. Things fly so fast and furious at you. I don't know like where to get the FAQs or where the rules updates are. I'm like, chapter approved. When is this coming out? What's going on? Because I primarily focus on Heresy.
I'm sorry, what game? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Horus Heresy.
So I primarily focus on Heresy. So
Yeah.
like with all of the content hose firing at you from Games Workshop, when you stick your head back in, you're like, you feel it blasted off sometimes. You're like, wait, what's going on? What
Yeah.
army's been released? Who's been updated? What
Yeah.
FAQ?
It is a lot.
Yeah. So some sort of starting point would be awesome.
Interesting idea.
And
Yeah.
some sort of resource that will point you to, oh, hey, you have a 1,000 Suns army? Well, this is what you want. This book and this book and this book. This is what's updated. So a current list of what you need to play the game. Because sometimes you just don't know.
It can be
when
a
you
little overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And again, I love 40K. I love the armies, love the genre, love poking my head in and playing games, one game a month with my friends or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, wait, what? Wait, what got updated?
Agreed.
Wait, what happened?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, piggybacking off the Horus Heresy points you made earlier, which I completely agree with. Like the Blood Angels book 8, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, boy, it
Where
seems
is
really
that?
silent.
Yeah, yeah.
When is that coming out again? Because I thought it was like almost out. And
Well,
then-
so this is the thing. So there's a bit of tea leaves when you're a Heresy player.
Yeah.
And you're like, is there an announcement? No. So it's probably coming out for the Heresy Weekender. Like,
Right.
you're like, is it coming out for Christmas? Maybe. We haven't heard an announcement yet.
No.
So it's going to be the Heresy Weekender. Yeah.
Right.
When you're a Heresy player, because there's so little communication, you actually become
Yeah.
a expert of the Emperor's Tarot.
I
you
think
guess.
my one criticism at this point would be back when we were covering Heresy all the time and we were playing a lot. That was what I was playing the most.
Yeah.
At 7th edition, because I felt like during 7th edition, like that was the best way to play the game.
I agree with you.
And I feel like there were so many times we sat there on this show and we were like, geez, Forge World is just firing on all cylinders. Games Workshop, what are you doing? We would call them Games Workshop Prime, whatever the studio is what they're actually called. We'd be like, man, they just can't keep up with Forge World. Forge World's just knocking this out of the park. And geez, there's another model and it's amazing. And now I feel like those have reversed themselves.
So I have a theory about this.
And before you go into that theory,
Yeah.
I would just say it's not just about Heresy, but it's about the Forge World indexes that have come out. I feel like they had to rush to get those out. And there's been a correction in points, which I appreciate that they include in the chapter approved for
that's
the
nice.
Forge World points. But there's also there's some things that are missing significantly. Like, hey, you guys have the Minotaurs, you have the Red Scorpions.
Yeah.
Where are their chapter tactics? Come on, throw a couple things out there. And I just feel like we didn't used to be like that with Forge World. Forge World used to be the fire hose that we were like, whoa.
So my feeling, and Forge World, you can contact me and correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're a fairly small team.
Yep, they
so
are.
to Forge World, they are constantly putting out stuff, and the fire hose is happening
And
because
they
they
are.
just did Heresy, they did Blood Bowl, they just I think they did Necromunda too because it's specialist games.
Yep.
So to
And
them,
by the way, they're killing it with Necromunda.
yeah, but their team is super busy, and they are coming
Yeah.
out with new books every day. I think,
But there are lines that have been dropped.
yes.
What happened to Imperial Armor books?
I
Are
don't
they
know.
gone?
So here's the thing.
Fire
like,
Syraxis. I was really looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
This is the problem. So what happens? Do they expand the team? Do they? I mean, we would all love it if they did.
Sure.
This is the problem, and we all feel like, again, I'm on that end of that right now with Heresy
Yeah.
content because they
You're on the
slowed
front
that
lines,
down.
Jason.
They moved the hose. They moved the hose over to Ed.
Yeah.
They've been firing at him for a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm hoping the hose will squirt back at me. But yes, I think that is what's happening.
I'm sure. Actually, I'm sure that that's what's happening, and it's like there were things that they used to do that I'm really glad they brought back the specialist games. I really, really am. But there are things that they used to do that I miss, like wholeheartedly. I miss the Imperial Armor books. I absolutely miss like new 40K models or fantasy models that would come out with rules, and we're not really. I mean, we kind of see that a little bit, like that new Necron thing just came out that we were talking about a while ago, but they've certainly slowed down in that area to focus on these other areas, and that's not to criticize the product that like Necromunda is. It's a fantastic product. They're just now finally releasing the rule book separate of everything, and I love the way they're doing that. But I do miss these older.
My suggestion for them, Adam, is to reach out and touch
explain
these
what's
things
going
for a
on.
while.
That's all we need.
Or even get somebody who just produces some content that are like rules or something every once in a while for existing things.
Yeah.
Existing updates, somebody going around, like in the video game industry, a lot of times you don't have time to get a programmer to fix a problem. You change the tooltip to describe what's happening.
Right.
That's the kind of thing I suggest to them, where they go and touch on Necromunda, tell the Heresy players what's going on. Sorry, go ahead.
Adam, what were you going to throw in there?
So every time there's a Heresy or every time there's a Forge World or Heresy live stream, someone invariably brings up Fires of Syraxis. If there's a post, what about Fires of Syraxis? If they're like, oh, look at our new content, Fires of Syraxis. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers, but it was a public post. Like the gentleman who wrote Fires of Syraxis said he did it on his own time. So is that how things were done in Forge World for a long time? And then 8th edition came out. There's no time to convert everything back to 8th edition if you're doing all this stuff on your own time. Like, so I think there wasn't enough of a priority on actually devoting in-house resources to Imperial Armor. It's such a big, like, those books need to be lovingly crafted over time.
We know the guy who does the layout.
Games Workshop,
layout, right?
Games Workshop needs to pay people. I don't mean to be crude here, but if someone's going to do all that work, they need to be paid to do it, and it needs to be on company time, and it needs to. People,
I don't know the truth of that statement.
Okay.
But here's what I would say. Even if, let's say that's the case.
Let's say it's true. It might be conjecture.
Just communicate it to us.
Yeah.
Communicate it to us in an official way and say, here's the status of the things that we've been working on. Oh, great. Yeah. Now I know. And you can even say, here's our goal. We may not meet these dates. We want you to understand this is what we're thinking. And I think this community is fairly understanding of that kind of statement. I think the community has shown the way Games Workshop is communicating, the studio's communicating about things that they're like, yeah, okay. Well, I say that, and then the Orc Codex comes out in November, not Orktober. And everybody loses their mind.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started.
Okay, let's move on. This is the final question. We're running a little long, so let's go. This will be the final question. What is the best experience you have ever had in your gaming quote unquote career? Whether it's been a particular event you went to, a specific trip you went on, a specific game you played with somebody. What has had the most impact for you in the years that you've been playing these types of games? Ed, I want to start with you on this one.
Okay, so the biggest experience, I guess, the greatest experience, was shared with you guys in this room. And I'm not talking about this minute right now. I'm talking about a couple years ago when we went to England.
Yeah.
And it was meaningful in multiple ways. One, the fans of the show helped me and Blake go there.
Yeah.
Two, the people that were there.
Yeah.
And experiencing my first trip to England, right?
Yeah.
Sharing it with a couple of people. I don't know if it was your first trip to England.
It was.
Okay. So and then we also had Jason and Johnny who lived there to kind of guide us through meeting Alan.
Yep.
And playing Cards Against Humanity, the British edition.
That's right.
Yeah. In
with
the hotel
Alan
room.
and Ed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was really cool. You know?
Especially when we're like, we don't know who this person is.
Yeah. Well, we're going to mulligans out for this one and this one. Yeah.
That's the mayor of London. Oh, okay.
Oh, good to know.
That was funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, that by far has been the highlight that probably will never be recaptured.
Yeah.
It'll be like that Yahoo event.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be good. You know what I mean? So that has been the highlight. And I wish, that everyone can have that kind of experience.
Yeah. All right.
Especially when you played 40K with the Queen.
Yeah, exactly.
Heresy.
Of course, she's English.
Loopy, what about you?
I had a hard time.
This is a tough question.
It's really hard. Like most meaningful. I mean, yeah. I guess I'm gonna have to waffle because I have to agree with Ed.
Your note literally says, "Gosh, that's hard."
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Ed. I think our trip to England was my favorite hobby experience.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys letting me tag along because
you weren't tagging along. You were part of the group, dude.
yeah,
Totally.
I appreciate it because it's so wonderful to hang out with y'all and it was really great to meet the folks over at Nottingham and the Hate guys were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Hate
guys were
great.
wonderful. Yeah. What a wonderful bunch of people.
Hackney area tabletop enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people raise eyebrows.
Yeah. Call it a hate group.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. I loved it. It was wonderful. It was very much like a Mecca experience. We went going through the museum. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
And hanging out with you guys, having Brazilian barbecue and stuff. That was super fun. Yeah, it was.
Place is no longer there.
Yep, closed down.
That's fine. I can't go to those places.
the Nottingham
anymore
one.
anyways.
Yeah, it's gone.
But I'd love to do it again someday. But we'll see. Got the baby.
Yep.
So
right.
maybe there'll be a new favorite experience going forward. I'm not gonna press my luck with the kid though.
Yeah.
Let them
Don't do
explore.
that yet.
Let them explore what they want, and maybe they'll roll some dice someday.
No, baby. He's 2. We could take him to the Warhammer Museum. He'll love it.
Jason, what about you?
So I feel like this is a clean sweep for England all of a sudden. So I've been to so many amazing events and have such a good time. I mean, with everybody in this room, with so many people that I've met. But the most touching moment for me was, I think, the first time I walked into the Overlord Scout Hut because, I didn't know anybody. I think it was Jeff because he was the one I think who suggested it.
Yeah,
even.
he told you.
And he was like, "Oh, you should go to the Overlords." And I was like, "Yeah, where is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's in East London, kind of near where my new house is."
Yeah.
So it was like the week after I was there or something, and I'm like, I take the train. I have no idea where I'm at. Mm-hmm. I have no idea where I'm going. I get off the train, take a bus, and then get off in front of some church, and I'm like, what is going on? And I wander left, I wander right.
That's right, because it was back behind it.
Yeah, I wander behind, and there's this little teeny hut, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're in a hut. I'm like, this must be it. And I kind of poke my head through the door, and I'm like, hello. And they were like, hey.
And that's hard meeting new people like that. That's you don't know what you're going to expect.
And I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know any of them. I had no connections, and was kind of poking my head through that door, and then being accepted. And to this day, some of my best friends are from the Overlords, and later I got pulled into the podcast, and just met so many wonderful people, and they were so accepting, and the hobby kind of bringing me to this instant group of friends that I met from thousands of miles away, right?
Yeah.
And it was very touching to me, and that And that just kind of showed me the power of sometimes that this hobby has for all of us, and the power to bring us together. And that is very touching to me. Yeah. So I think that is the moment that I have to peg as one of the most important to me.
Very cool. For me, it was probably, it's like you said, is tough. And there's a lot of great experiences developing close friendships with people that I never expected to develop close friendships with. I think for me, though, it was probably when I shut down the show and took a break. But at the time, I had no intention of bringing the show back. When I shut down the show after so many years, and then just the outpouring of support from people. And, I remember John French saying, yeah, go out while you're on top. Way to go! Like that's good. Like that's a tough decision to make, and I think that's a good way to go, as opposed to letting things
peter out.
Yeah. And I had no intention of bringing the show back, and just got an itch and said, "Oh, let's do it again." And so just the amount of support I've gotten, I think is probably the biggest impact that I've ever had. So anyway, that's probably mine. Okay, so let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I'm Caleb.
And this is Kat.
And we are CK Studios. We want to invite you and your friends to come paint with us at one of our exciting and fun-filled airbrush and hobby weekenders. Our weekend workshops are 2 days of intense hands-on training, working directly with and learning from some of the top gaming artists in the industry.
Whether you're brand new to miniature painting or an experienced veteran that wants to up your game, CK Studios has the workshop for you. Our workshops cover everything from learning the basics and building confidence in airbrushing, all the way up to creating that centerpiece model for your army or display case.
For more class info and our upcoming schedule, you can find us on Facebook at CK Studios Come Paint With Us, or register directly at ckstudios.bigcartel.com.
If you can't find a class near you, that's okay. Just contact us and we'll bring a workshop to you.
Okay, so thank you for listening to episode 179. Kind of a surprise episode for me, so thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. I know it's super late. We've had a long day. Some of you have driven really far. You can sleep in tomorrow. You get to sleep in the guest room, Ed.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's going to sleep on the couch.
Thank you.
Because Francisca didn't come, so... Anyway,
that was your ticket in.
I wanted to. Yeah. We like her better than you.
She does 60% of the work.
You lucky dog. I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk about each of your podcasts, your projects, what's going on. Ed, you have 2 shows now. For gosh sakes,
yeah.
What? Where do people find these shows?
Well, I guess the primary place would be iTunes, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, it's Life After the Cover Save, and that's a comedy gaming podcast.
Okay.
And the other one is TSR Podcast,
okay.
or 20-Sided Realms is the actual name of it.
Perfect.
Which is the D&D live play or actual play. I don't know.
I'm going to go check it out.
I hope you do.
Yeah, I will. I haven't listened to it yet, but now I want to. Especially I hear how exciting and funny it is.
Well, it's pretty funny. So
yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
so
me
good.
too.
I think I am starting to fade.
It's only 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah, well, it's 3:30 in the morning for me. Anyways, it's Masters of the Forge.
Yep.
We are a narrative play podcast, so Warhammer podcast. So we do go into lore topics.
Yep.
We take suggestions from the community, but we also come up with narrative play rules as well. So custom rules for your games, or I don't know how many people actually use our rules, but maybe the things we talk about give you ideas for your own games to come up with your own rules.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that would be super. That's super fun. And we do talk about products and stuff that come out from Games Workshop and how they apply to narrative gaming and stuff like that.
Fantastic.
And to the hobby. We also have a companion podcast that we purchased from Blake and Ed for literally tens of dollars in ad revenue, called Altar of War, which by its name you should know. It's basically we play a game, we play a Warhammer 40K game, and I record like an intro. We talk about the lists, and then we stop after every turn and we talk about what happened in the game, and then we close it up with our thoughts.
You sold him that segment?
Yeah. And if you want the Battle Force breakdown,
oh
no, I'll
how do you think
I'm not buying the Battle Force breakdown.
How do you think he ran out of mattresses to put his money in?
Well, our lawyers actually mainly worked out the deal.
rough.
But
is this the same lawyer that you guys used when you guys sold out to that other thing? Oh,
they're good.
That's I'll tell you
got
what.
you out of that situation, didn't they?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, it's working out for us. We are raking it in over there on the Freebooters Network with that one. That's the big time money over there.
Because California needs a lot of raking, apparently. Because raking millions of square miles.
Not raking causes fires.
Yeah,
just get an army of Roombas.
Anyway, Jason, what do you got going on?
Sons of Heresy, my Heresy podcast. Go check that out on iTunes. We got plenty of episodes from season 1 and season 2. We do seasons,
right?
Which I think is the way forward. And then Frontier Radio coming soon, which is going to be narrative focused and gaming review.
Very cool. Well, guys, I really want to say thank you for joining me. I know it's very late. I know you guys spent a lot of time playing today and staying up late last night, but I'm really glad you all came and visited, and I just had a fantastic weekend with you. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, the last thing I want to throw out there is you may have seen on our Facebook page and Facebook group that we have been trying to help out. Speaking of raking, the campfire, the Butte County fire that occurred was the largest fire in California history. There were thousands upon thousands of homes destroyed, not even to mention the the business buildings and those kinds of things. The town of Paradise, California, was literally wiped off the map. It's gone. And among these people that were impacted by this fire, there are many gamers who have lost massive collections of 40K armies, that kind of thing. Imagine everything that you own just being gone, and then think about just your 40K armies that would be destroyed for your house to be gone. That has happened to these people, and we're trying to help them out. You can find information on the independentcharacters.com under the community tab at the top of our page as to where you can and how you can donate either used models or new models, and what people are playing and what they're looking for, and how we can help these folks out. And we're already getting a great amount of donations to those people who have offered up that kind of help, including Table War, one of our sponsors, who's offering up some help to these guys, and we'll kind of go into more detail about that when all the things kind of solidify. But these people could use help. They're a great group of people that unfortunately have really been impacted by this. So again, the independentcharacters.com, look at the community tab under the Campfire Relief for Gamers section. And that's it. Again, thank you so much for joining us, guys. I'm just going to take us out really quick and really easy. And this episode should release, and then the next day you will hear episode 180 releasing right after that, which is Show of Force Thousand Suns. So we will talk to you again very, very soon. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.
What about heresy?
Whatever you want to talk about.
I started a little World Eaters army.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It's good, yeah. So
I mean to talk about the hobby.
Just get it all off your chest.
Get it
Jason.
all out.
I never said I didn't like talking about it. I just would make a terrible hobby bartender.
Okay.
Okay, fair. Like if you rolled up to the bar and you were like, "So I was working on my World Eaters and stuff broke," I'd be like, "Anyway, I gotta go serve this dude over there." Like I just would not.
All right, World Eaters. This is like your 4th heresy army?
Yeah. Well, 5th if you count the kind of failed Mechanicum one. But it's my 4th Legion army.
Okay.
So,
but aren't they all just Marines? Don't they all just play the same?
Oh no.
That's what people say, right?
No.
But no, it's not.
They feel so different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hard for heresy. I am really into the game. I really like Kill Team as well. So I've been sort of sneaking away and sort of making little kill teams out of my Thousand Sons Legion army. I was playing with you tonight, which was great.
Cheating on heresy.
I grabbed cheating or looking into the future with my psychic vision. See, I saw it was coming.
Maybe he has an open relationship with heresy.
Yeah. I kind of get the picture that meme where the guy is like walking and he's like looking back at the girl in the dress.
Yeah.
And the other girl.
Yeah.
It is like, so that is me with 8th edition. I do look back at heresy. However, I do look back around my other shoulder at Kill Team. Yeah. I really enjoy Kill Team.
I mean, I'm telling you, like, I really enjoyed heresy, right? I played a lot of it during 7th edition.
Yeah.
I have my word bearers sit on my shelves longingly looking at me, and they're like, "Are you ever going to play with us again?" And I'm like,
Maybe if you stop getting killed by sweeping advances, I will.
So, speaking of this, I'll switch this around for a second.
Yeah.
Have you looked at those fan-made 8th edition?
I haven't yet. Like, I've briefly looked at them. I haven't like involved myself in playing them yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is around here,
people don't play heresy.
There's not a lot of people playing heresy. I mean, now there are people around here who will probably argue that point and say, "Oh no, there's people playing it." But the reality is, most people are playing 8th edition 40K at this point.
See, this complete. No, there's a lot of people playing 8th edition 40K. So let's not make this, sound like they're not. But I was just gonna say, in England, there's a huge heresy scene.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about you in particular, in regards to this, I mean, amongst many interesting things about you, but in this in particular, you dabble in both. Like you're kind of all over the place.
So I like 8th edition, and I have some Eldar stuff, and I would love to paint a little bit more. Yeah. Again, because I sort of focused on the Eldar because I wanted a Xenos army because I play a lot of Marines in Heresy. I just don't have much time to do that and all the heresy stuff I do.
This is the issue for me.
And I completely understand. Yeah. And this is why, like, what tends to motivate me, and this is why I end up with so many heresy things, is that I'll do an event. I'm a crisis management individual. So like an event's in 3 months, well, this army's going to get painted for that. So this 1,000 points of World Eaters is for Breach, which is an event my friend Pete's putting on in Southampton.
Pete puts on the best
events. Yes, and this is a casual event for Pete. This is what the original event was supposed to be, was 20 people getting together, playing some games. Pete then went crazy, but we can talk about that later.
About Pete.
Yes.
That's
perfect
awesome.
Pete.
Is there anything wrong with that guy? Like,
no, he's perfect Pete. That's his name.
He's good looking. He's got great personality.
Yeah.
He's super smart.
Yeah.
I hate him on all fronts.
So
I hate him on all fronts.
Yeah, isn't he a good painter too?
I don't know.
Yes, he's a good painter.
He really, in all honesty, he actually is a wonderful guy. Like,
this might make you feel good.
That's why you call him perfect.
His Emperor's children were not perfect enough, so he sold all of them and started a new Emperor's Children army.
Jeez. That is an Emperor's Children thing to do.
Yeah,
yes.
that
is legit.
Does that make him more perfect?
Living in heresy.
Yeah.
Oh, but I do think it's interesting because often, these discussions come up. Oh, heresy should go 8th edition, blah, blah. Let it be what it is, and just you can choose to play both. They're both good games.
The only thing I
just have limited time.
And that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'm sad about is it's kind of split the community
It has.
for people who really like 8th. So there's a lot of people who really like 8th, and there's a lot of people who really like 7th or 7.5, whatever, Heresy now.
Yep.
It's slightly different for anybody who just played 7th. They came out with their own rule book, and it does have some noticeable changes, but it is basically the 7th that you guys played.
Well, the funny thing about it is a lot of people go, oh, Heresy should go 8th edition. Heresy's not 7th edition.
No.
Right? It's not. I mean, at its
It's
core,
never really been fully.
It hasn't.
No.
And so there's been a lot of back and forth about, oh, they were going to do it and it didn't work and blah, blah, blah. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. And I can tell you that from the horse's mouth, that is not true. Heresy was never going to go 8th edition. It was going to change.
Yeah.
And what it was going to be would probably be closer to 8th edition than 7th edition, but it wouldn't be 8th edition. It would be it would
still be Heresy.
It'd be its own character.
Yeah.
And it's not that, you know, I mean, Alan passed away and he was kind of spearheading everything, but you know, plans change and things adapt, and we'll see where things go. Nobody knows where it's going right now. Most of them are just waiting for the book 8 to come.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And we'll talk about this a little bit later.
Yeah.
More. But like, I have some comments on that.
Sure.
Particular. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, the Heresy community, I think, has been sort of waiting for the new rules to come out. And there's been this gap.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of places it's fallen off. Like here, it seems like around this area, for you guys, not as many people play Heresy. I'm not sure why there's such a strong like event community in England, but there is. And that's, you know, I guess I'm lucky. I'm also plugged in because I've been on a Heresy show. So, I mean, I get to hear about all of the events.
Well, maybe it could be, you know, show like there's you and I think there's one other big show in England. I mean, like
Greg
shows like yours promote the community. You know, and it might be in no small part due to that.
To some degree, it's probably self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I mean, you're into Heresy, and so you seek out those things, and this is what happens. And you also help build that community. We'll talk about that in a little bit, too. But I think there's room for all of it.
It is, and this is, I don't get to play enough 8th edition. I've played 6 or 7 games, and like I've had a good time. I think it's a fun game, and I've defended it to the Heresy community as well. And it's
they don't want to hear it.
Like I still defend Heresy to the 8th edition community, not naming anyone that I'm looking at directly.
You don't have to defend it.
No, I'm just messing with you.
You know, there's some honest realities about both systems.
Okay, let's be honest. The Psychic Phase sucks.
In which game?
Oh, in 7th, in Heresy.
In Heresy, it's a little rough.
It's sad. I don't play my Thousand Suns anymore in events.
Let's not get into it. We're good.
Have I mentioned sweeping advances yet?
Firestorm.
We're going to create a Firestorm, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Word bears don't really worry about that because they roll 3 dice 6. Take that.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. We don't break.
No.
Okay. All right. So what have you been working on? You're starting this World Eaters. 1,000 points of them.
So I finished off my Blood Angels. So I have a little Blood Angels force that is a drop force. I knew when the book dropped. So Sanguinius is like my favorite Primarch.
Those Blood Angels.
It was my
Forge
first
World models.
Oh yeah.
They can't,
oh my god.
I don't even like Blood Angels, and I looked at those. I was like, you know, me a little Blood Angel. They are beautiful.
Do you know what I said? I was talking to Pete at the time. And maybe I could strip my Leviathan and put him in the World Eaters and then buy this Blood Angels one.
They are beautiful looking models. They're really
so
good.
good.
And honestly, the paint job that they've done
is great.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a great job on that from Forge World. So
yeah, I really like those. I mean, those are some of the nicest models.
Agreed.
I am very, very excited about those. Luckily, that whole thing. Okay, so because I have so many Heresy armies, I set a set of boundaries and rules for myself. And what I do is instead of repeating armies and just having like a Spartan for every army, Terminators for every army, I pick a theme. So my Blood Angels are an all drop list. It's all Assault Marines. It's all drop things. It's centered around that. My Space Wolves are like because they were so old, they're kind of my tank force.
Right.
I wouldn't what I would have picked for them now, but it's kind of what I have. So it's all dudes in metal boxes that go across the field. The Thousand Sons are my Centurion and Zone Mortalis force, and the World Eaters are another little Zone Mortalis force, but they will be allied in with the Thousand Sons.
Got it.
To make a bigger army.
Okay.
And that's kind of the thing. So my theory is I'll let myself have as many little Legion attachments as I want, but I won't duplicate armies.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense in my head anyway.
Well, I mean, it makes for a different experience even further based on which army you're going to play.
Yeah. Right. Well, and then again, and then I feel like I have one collection instead of a just repeated a bunch of armies.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, Blood Angels, working on the little World Eaters thing, and